WTOL-TV, Toledo. Straight from the newsroom, this is Toledo 11 News.
Just another day on the job for a YMCA worker.
Until she came across this.
Were set up and students were painting welcome signs.
It wasn't quite the thrill of the open road, more like the parking lot of Perrysburg Commons.
It will make its debut on the
Just about the only event making news today.
2,000 carryout orders were handled.
Welcome into the WTOL 11 Vault with me, Dan Cummins. This week we're digging into some of the spookiest, silliest, and most nostalgic moments from Halloween's past here in Northwest Ohio. From giant pumpkins and haunted houses to safety tips, ghost towns, even costume crazes. We're opening the archives to see how Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan celebrated spooky season through the decades. Thanks for joining us here with the WTO 11 Vault. I'm happy to welcome back once again my colleague and friend Jeff Smith. I know you're a big fan of Halloween.
In fact, I was listening to that song very closely because it was just different enough from the Munsters theme that we're not going to get sued, Dan.
And that's always key. Don't want to get sued.
Well, we are going to get into the spooky stuff a little bit later, but first we're going to check in with Dick Berry, Melissa Veitch, taking us back in time with a pair of stories about the perfect pumpkin.
Halloween, falling leaves, hot cider, and pumpkins. That's what fall is all about. Here at Kyle's Produce in Sylvania, they're loading up the jack-o'-lanterns for a grocery store near you. This year, there's about 10 acres worth. Now, if you're looking for the king of the Kyle pumpkin patch, this is it. About 85 pounds or so, and there's no way you're going to be able to carry this out on your own. But not all the pumpkins this year will be monsters.
They're running rather small this year because of the heat we had in July, but other than that, they're holding up pretty well after all the water they've had.
When you go to the grocery store, this is where they came from.
You know that, but the kids from Greenwood School probably didn't. They went out into the field to learn firsthand about the harvest.
The pumpkins come from blossoms and they turn green, and then they turn orange.
Others even came away with their own theory as to why some pumpkins are bigger than others.
The big ones were planted before the little ones.
Makes sense, doesn't it? Dick Berry, Toledo 11 News.
Ron Schelt is the pumpkin king of Northwest Ohio, sort of a pumpkin scientist.
That's a big name. I just grow pumpkins.
Well, grow pumpkins might be sort of an understatement. Ron's award-winning pumpkin patch looks more like a science project gone mad. No pumpkin weighs less than 100 pounds, most average 250. But the masterpiece is one tipping the scales at over 500 pounds.
Actually, that was the first pumpkin on the vine, which is unusual. Usually the first couple pumpkins don't make it.
Just to give you an idea how big a 500-pound pumpkin is, you could either make 300 pumpkin pies, or you could just carve it out and use it as a sofa. And how does he get these pumpkins so big, you ask?
We use a lot of horse manure. I mean, you just can't imagine the amount of tonnage of horse manure we put on.
Ron's nicknamed this pumpkin most appropriately the Big One, and at the rate it's growing, it may make the record books. He's entering it in the World Pumpkin Weigh-Off in Collins, New York this fall. The record is 755 pounds. Ron says competition is fierce at this event.
It's tough competition, it really is. They hide them until the very last minute. They won't let anybody see them.
Just imagine trying to hide a 500-pound pumpkin, and you can imagine how serious these people are about their pumpkins. But Ron says he takes it all in fun. After all, it's a fun crop that can double as furniture after it's harvested. Melissa Veitch, Toledo 11 News, White House.
It's so funny when you think about the pumpkin, the use one time a year, right? Specifically, you're talking pumpkin, well, I guess maybe twice a year because you're decorating and then you're also thinking about pumpkin pies.
Yeah, Thanksgiving, Christmas, pumpkin pie, that's a standard, right?
Right. Do you like decorating pumpkins? Do you still decorate pumpkins?
My wife does all the decorating because I'm a little...
Not artistic?
That's a good way to put it. I don't really get into the holidays, those holidays like she does. My wife does all the decorating for Thanksgiving, for Halloween, for Christmas. In fact, right now she's already got the stuff up.
Yeah, and she's an amazing landscaper as well.
She sure is, yeah.
So we've seen you, in fact, I remember when the 4 o'clock show started, we've seen you go out to haunted houses. But is that something you would typically do?
I had never been in a haunted house until I did that one story a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And I can pretty much guarantee I'll never be back. Do you like to be scared? I don't like to.
I like the idea of being scared.
You're walking through the dark and then suddenly something pops out at you and having that scared out. I just don't like that feeling.
I grew up in Temperance, okay? And I remember there was this house. I grew up on Tennyson Drive in Temperance, Michigan. There was a house on Longfellow, which was just a hop, skip, and jump away from my house. But I remember every single year they had a haunted house. They would just open their garage door and they would just set it up in every single nook and cranny. They always had somebody popping out of a coffin. And as a kid, that stuck with me. That always scared. And I can remember my dad leading me up to it, and I was always scared to go in.
So you're walking up, and then a coffin opens up and
you had to go into the garage.
Oh, okay.
They had draped bed sheets and stuff so that.
You like corn mazes?
I've never been to one.
I've never been in one either.
Yeah. So I guess
I like
have to experience
I
that.
like to eat candy, but Halloween you can have it. In the early 90s, Al Smith and Dick Barry checked out some spooky sights and sounds. Here it is.
It could be the biggest costume party of the year. Nearly 10,000 people walk down pumpkin-lit walkways in the Toledo Zoo's 5th annual Pumpkin Path.
Families aren't taking their kids out in the neighborhoods anymore because of the threat of things being in candy and stuff. So we thought this would be a great way to give something back to the community.
The unusual exhibits and, of course, the free candy entice these nighttime creatures to come out this Halloween evening. But safety also played a major role.
When we were kids, we would go out like till 11 o'clock at night and never ever worry about it.
So parents walk hand in hand with their children, and the scariest thing they have to face here is a carved-out pumpkin.
They look scary, they look funny, and they look silly. I like to get scared.
You do? Have you been scared tonight at all?
No, not yet.
The most nightmarish sight of the evening wasn't this guy, but this one. He says he got all hung up in the Halloween spirit.
A lot of them are scared. We try not to scare the little kids too bad. Just here to have a good time, basically.
Several years ago, Jeff and his brother turned their house and our neighbors into haunted houses. It's been a real scream with the kids. Now I've shown you a haunted house, but a haunted garage. For one day, the family car takes a backseat to monsters and Halloween madness. Jim Firm, the hairy guy behind the mask, says he does it because Halloween is in his blood. Better his than yours. Al Smith, Toledo 11 News.
The Toledo Zoo Amphitheater. Normally, you come here for music under the stars, but there's some pretty spooky stuff that goes on backstage, too.
Hey, it's the Frankensteins. How you doing, guys? Sorry I asked. Whoa! Hi, good to see you.
It's Boo at the Zoo, a creepy experience sponsored by the Zoo, Glass City JCs, and City Fest.
Hey, look at this. This guy's just hanging out.
Care to join me? I want the little ones. Bring them to me now. Yes.
Boo at the Zoo, yeah, it's pretty scary stuff, but I need something that's really going to knock my head off. The Phantom Freighter Willis B. Boyer is a chamber of horrors.
Yeah, one thing nice about coming to the Willis Boyer this time of the year, great view of downtown Toledo, also a great view of the high-level bridge. Little wedding action here tonight. Oh!
Okay, so I didn't lose my head. But you're bound to see someone get off, we promise, at the Boyer's Fright Afloat.
Isn't it amazing that Boo at the Zoo, what we know it as now, is a little event for kids?
Yeah.
And it was back then, it was a haunted thing for adults.
A lot of creativity there. Now, something we hear every year is check your kids' candy.
Yeah, a lot of scaring when we were growing up, but while reports show around 200 confirmed cases of candy tampering in the U.S. and Canada, 200 cases between 1958 and 2019, that's it. It is a point that is reiterated year after year. So check out these stories from Amy Marsalis and Melissa Veitch.
Part of the magic of Halloween is the chance it gives children and adults to be someone or something else.
I think it's important in the sense that it's a neat time for people, children and adults, to try out different ways of being that they aren't during the year.
That's the fantasy, but this is part of the reality of trick or treat.
Some needles, open it has a needle in it there. You're going to see metallic objects such as pins and needles and other things like that. You won't see any chemicals or drugs that anyone might inject into it.
Psychologist Marilyn Smith, who works with children, says the Halloween holiday can and should still be a time for kids to make believe. Smith says neighborhood parties for kids can make Halloween just as memorable as going door to door, where they take the chance they'll get more than treats.
I think games and having fun, teaching children to be creative and making costumes that are neat, to have costume parties.
And Smith says kids, like adults, need to have those memories.
Halloween, a time when sweet young kids transform into scary creatures and monsters. But experts are warning that parents make sure that transformation is a safe one, starting with the costume. Safety officials suggest kids wear costumes with lighter colors so they can be seen easily by passing motorists. Or try adding reflective tape to their getup to help them stand out. Also, experts warn to stay away from masks that have blind spots. Instead, try makeup so kids can see where they're going. But make sure it does not contain any harmful ingredients.
You want to avoid toluene, formaldehyde, methylene chloride. You may want to think twice about putting a lot of talc on your children's skin. BHA is another thing to avoid, and look out for some of those banned dyes, DNC reds 8, 9, and 19.
And once your child heads out on the Halloween trail, make sure they don't stray into strange areas.
Have an assigned route that the kids are going to go on, have a return time so the parents can be watching for them. And obviously the people, the homes that are going to get involved, they're instructed to turn on their lights.
Experts also warn that kids should never enter the house of a stranger when they go door to door. Also, you should make sure your child waits until they get home to enjoy their treats.
To remind the children before they start out, don't eat any of their treats that they get during their rounds, to wait till they come home and let the parents go through the treats and see that they haven't been tampered with.
Experts say by taking these extra precautions, you can enjoy the holiday and leave the scaring to the ghosts and goblins.
All right, Jeff, you've talked about this before. You really enjoy Halloween and getting dressed up. You have a favorite costume over the years?
My wife and I, we have been lucky enough to be invited to a couple of parties where it's a competition.
Sure.
And of course, it's competition.
Creativity,
I'm
baby.
competitive, and I want to win the dang thing. So I've gone a little bit overboard, but I wanted to show people at home a couple of the favorites. So first time I ever really spent a lot of time, I go to Steinmart. Ready? Yeah. Steinmart over at Westgate, and I ask them, do you have any dummies that I can borrow or just take? Just the mannequins that they would have. I wanted to cut a mannequin, and you'll see why. Take a look at this. This is my wife and I, and we created Headless Bride and Groom. And we won that year. Believe it or not, we won that year. But that is, my head is in basically a Cheez-It container.
Okay.
Or not a Cheez-It, like a cheese ball container.
Yeah.
Now here's the problem. As I wore this, it kept steaming up.
Sure.
So people wouldn't see my face. So they had no idea when I would walk around the party. They said.
So your shoulders there are above your actual head.
I hollowed out a mannequin.
Okay.
And wore that on my shoulders and created this set of shoulders and arms and fake hands. And my wife's mother, she made that she found a vintage dress and actually sewed it. She's also a great seamstress, and she fixed it up so that everything worked just perfectly.
That's awesome.
That was probably the best we've ever done.
One time I dressed up as Dracula.
Okay.
And what's really weird is if if you're into theater and you wear makeup a lot and you're used to it, I'd never seen myself with that white pasty face. I didn't recognize my face.
Yeah.
It was really strange.
Did anybody else?
Not really, no. Well, this next trio of stories is going to take us back to some of the popular looks of decades past. Evan Rosen, Melissa Veitch, and Dick Berry report.
Bob DiLorenzo makes tools. He says that's basically his identity. But Bob and his two friends plan to live different identities for one night. The problem is they're not sure who or what.
I think I could be as good a cheerleader as the next guy.
The cheerleader idea did not last long.
Something like this.
There you go. You guys could be flappers.
Flappers?
Yeah.
No. Come on, Bob. Oh, here's Bud. How's this?
Looks like Houdini.
The more these guys look, the more discouraged they get. No, that's not you, Bob. Hey, what about gangsters? Now that's an idea.
Oh, come on, guys, just get in the spirit. You know, it's like Christmas, you know? I'll try it. Try it, Bob. Come on. I had to get my hair cut.
That one looks great on you. I'm serious. That looks good. You should invest yourself in
You should see them into some of the jackets at Goodwill.
They look like they'd like to have a lot of fun. Why don't you all go with monsters?
Oh my God, look at this thing. Are you alive, Dave? Are you alive?
Finally, an identity. Vampires, but not your average vampires.
You have to drink through straws, but people just... This is the way we are.
If you're lucky, you won't have as much trouble finding a Halloween costume as our three friends. But if you look, and you still really can't find anything that's you, maybe you should try a generic Halloween costume. Evan Rosen, Toledo 11 News.
Whoever said Halloween was just for kids obviously hasn't shopped for a costume lately. Sure, there's the standard line of demons and dragons for those under 4 feet tall, but there's also a potpourri of characters that bring the animal or monster, as the case may be, out in adults. And if you think kids are the only ones influenced by Saturday morning cartoons, think again. Guess who tops the list of trick-or-treaters?
This year, Freddy Krueger is real big, and Michael Myers is, every day I get a couple calls about Michael Myers. Batman is really big. Anything that's in the media, on television, or in the movies, it's going to be real big.
There are still the old standbys that continue to make a strong showing every year. And to model some of the sentimental favorites, we enlisted the enthusiastic help of Doug the Shopper. He was just dying to try on some of the hot costumes we picked out for him. Doug's favorite was the vampire, but we liked him better as a flapper. He compromised on Elvis, all big sellers this year. And just remember, California raisins are in, Rudolph is definitely out.
You know what I have always liked about Halloween is that it doesn't always have to be scary. If you're a woman, you can indulge in a Renaissance fantasy with pretty dresses. Or if you're a man, you can ride off as one of the gallant knights. Things simply don't have to be scary anymore.
But there is still a big demand for disgusting and ugly. The uglier the better, and they even come with moving parts. The Prince costume probably isn't looking too bad about right now, is it?
This is how Brett Bedell plans to dress for an upcoming Halloween sales rep party. Dreadlocks, grass skirt, and coconut shells. Pretty gutsy, but will the boss be impressed?
Probably so. I'll probably embarrass him.
Is there going to be a promotion in the whole thing for you on this? Or?
Let's hope.
You learn on a trip to Star Design Costume Shop that adults like to get gross and ghostly too. Halloween isn't just for kids anymore.
They seem to enjoy it because it's a time for them to do things that they normally can't do without people saying things, so they can dress up and be crazy and have a good time.
Couples are popular this year. There's Bill and Hillary. And what would Beavis do without Butthead? Going solo? Try Joe Camel, Freddy Krueger, or even a babushka lady.
Are you going to a party?
No, I'm not.
Okay.
Yeah. I might after this, though.
Kids are sticking with old standbys.
A ninja.
You're going to look like one now, though.
I know.
But some youngsters like to relive the 60s. Yep, that's a long time ago for them.
I'm going to be a hippie for Halloween, and I was thinking about taking the braids out and just letting it hang.
Now there's 1,000 costumes and hundreds of masks here at Star Design, and I think I found the one that I'm going to get for this Halloween.
How did it go?
What do you think? Pretty good?
Yeah.
Hey, what do you expect? You want something with appeal, right? Dick Berry, Toledo 11 News, Night Watch.
Oh, well played, Dick Berry.
I love the tie.
Yeah.
He had to have the tie outside of the banana.
Always had a tie.
We've seen the costumes, we talked about the candy, but for a lot of kids, Halloween's all about the trick-or-treating.
And in 1993, one little girl from Port Clinton wasn't satisfied with the city's schedule. You see, they moved trick-or-treat time earlier, and as Steve Lattimore shows us, it took persistence to get it back in the dark.
Oh.
This year, Halloween will have a special meaning for Allison Heineman and Elizabeth Hammond. It took a lot for them to get here. Their treat is having Halloween at night instead of during the daytime.
It's fun, you know. So one night of the year you get to be someone else. You don't have to be yourself.
City leaders in Port Clinton decided for 1 year out of 7 that it might be a good idea to hold trick-or-treating during the daytime. Well, as soon as Allison and Elizabeth found out about the change, they printed up petitions and gathered over 300 signatures supporting the idea of trick-or-treating at night. After the mayor saw the petitions, she reversed her decision.
They took it upon themselves to make a change that affected them, and they also did it in a democratic way, and that's where I was really impressed with it.
The biggest reason the kids wanted to do it at night was because at night it's a lot scarier. Boo!
Ah! Yeah, right.
Nice.
Makes them up for them because if it was in the daytime, it wouldn't scare you. It would just, you know, you just look at it like, oh.
Residents here in Port Clinton say they're glad Allison and Elizabeth stood up for what they believed in.
So I was happy when those kids got it changed, just show them how it should be. I was afraid they'd eventually take it away, but I think these kids are going to stand up for what they think is right.
Allison and Elizabeth say this is one Halloween they'll never forget.
It was just a fun feeling when I heard that we changed the hours. I think adults learn that children can change stuff.
And just to show there are no hard feelings, the girls sent the mayor a thank you note.
I think that people learn that the kids can help too, and that they should involve the children.
In Port Clinton, Stephen Lattimore, Toledo 11 News. Night Watch.
That bucket full of candy looked good. All right,
we've got one not too far from here.
We do. Do you believe in ghosts?
I remember as a kid with the cousins playing with the Ouija board. And I think that was always something that we found fascinating. But as you get older, you kind of lose it a little bit, right?
Well, I look at it like UFOs. I don't know that there are ghosts. I don't know that there are not ghosts.
That's a good way to look at it.
So let's just keep an open mind and see how it all plays out. In 1989, Janice Lane, my former co-anchor on the weekends back in the 1980s. 1989, Janice Lane headed out to a real-life ghost town. Take a look.
Shunk, Ohio is one of those towns that if you blinked while driving through, you'd probably miss it. Historians tell us that long ago, Indians once settled in these woods. The Indians supposedly buried gold on this land.
I would assume that the treasure is buried on the high ground, naturally, up on the high ground above the creek.
According to legend, an Indian ghost warrior guards the earth and treasures. Of the 24 people who still call this ghost town home, Orley Sturdivant is the oldest. As he tells it, the only eyewitness lived centuries ago. A small boy hunting for treasure saw the ghost and fainted.
When he woke up, it was hysterical, and all he'd say about is a big Indian on a white horse going to run him down. Now, I got that story from my uncle, who claimed to be present.
Folklorist Sergeant Richard Gill says it's common for small towns like Shunk to have a legend, but...
A ghost? Highly unlikely. I'm very much skeptical on that. But the fact that people like to hear ghost stories keeps the legends like this one alive.
I've told these stories 100 times. Never tell them twice alike. Always add a little something, put a little something to it. That's the way legends are made.
Janice Lane, Toledo 11 News, Henry County.
How about that?
Every time the story is told, it gets added and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We hope you have enjoyed this trip through time here on the WTOL 11 Vault. It has been a blast once again with Dan looking back at Halloween's past.
For Jeff Smith and all of us here at WTOL 11, thanks for watching. We leave you with this one last story, of course, from Dick Berry. He learns what it takes to make a world-class jack-o'-lantern.
Charlie Gunther is Dean of Adult Education at the Toledo Museum of Art. He's just crazy about the fine art of pumpkin carving. Even conducted seminars on the subject.
This is the icky part. Now you really got to get down inside here and pull all this out. This is fun.
Charlie's past masterpieces have included Jimmy Carter, Prince Charles, and Lady Di. His latest creation, that Chicago Bears quarterback who thinks burgers are boring, Jim McMahon. Pumpkin carving, says Charlie, is an old Irish tradition.
You see, it's All Saints' Night, and the goblins are out, the spooks are out, so people would often disguise who they were so that the spirits wouldn't get them, and they would go to the edge of town, and it was dark, so the Irish used potatoes. They'd carve a potato out, and they'd put a candle inside it, and it was like a lantern to get back, and when they came to this country, things being what they were, they found that there was this really cheap thing called a pumpkin.
In recent years, Mr. T and Michael Jackson jack-o'-lanterns have rested on Charlie's front porch Halloween night. This year, it won't be anybody famous like Don Johnson, Tina Turner, or Madonna. Instead, everybody's close personal friend, Dick Berry. And I bet you thought it was Oris Tabner. What do you think?